It's chapter number 4, Market Forces for Supply and Demand from the course Business Economics. Here comes the chapter's outline. In this chapter, we will study about what factors affect buyers' demand for goods, what factors affect sellers' supply of goods, how do supply and demand determine the price of a good and the quantity sold, how do changes in the factors that affect demand or supply affect the market price at quantity of a good, how do markets allocate resources. Markets and competition. A market is a group of buyers and sellers of a particular product. The term supply and demand refers to the behavior of people as they interact with one another in markets. Buyers determine demand and sellers determine supply. Both interact in markets, and this is how the market works. A competitive market is one with many buyers and sellers. Each has a negligible effect on price. In a perfectly competitive market, all goods are exactly the same, and buyers and sellers are so numerous that no one can affect market price. So each one is a price taker. Because buyers and sellers in perfectly competitive markets must accept the price the market determines. So that's why they are said to be the price takers. And in this chapter, we assume markets are perfectly competitive. Demand. The quantity demanded of any good is the amount of the good that buyers are willing and able to purchase. When we say that the amount of good that the buyer is willing and able to purchase at a certain price is known as quantity demanded. Law of demand. The claim that the quantity demanded of a good falls when the price of the good rises, other things equal. Law of demand tells that there is an inverse relation between price and quantity demanded of that product. If other things remain constant, or we can say ceteris paribus. Economists try to use assumptions when they want to develop models, laws, and theories. So here again, we are using assumptions considering other things constant and saying that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. When price goes up, quantity demand goes down, and when price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up, and this phenomena is known as law of demand. Here comes the demand schedule. Basically, demand schedule is a table that shows the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded. Here is the example, Helen's demand for lattice. Note that Helen's preferences obey the law of demand. At a low price, that is at 0, which means free, she demands more, and at high price, that is at $6, she demands less. From this table you can see that when price is $0, quantity demanded is 16, and when price goes up, that is up till $6, then the quantity demanded is 4. As you can see, as price increases, the quantity of latte demanded decreases, showing the inverse relationship. between these two prices, when the price becomes $1, quantity demanded is 14. Again at $2 it is 12. At $3 quantity demanded is 10. At $4 the quantity demanded is 8. And at $5 the quantity demanded is 6. And in the last, when the price is $6, so the quantity demanded is $4. So here, uh, as the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases, and it shows that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Helen's demand schedule and curve. With inverse relationship, we graphically see a negative, or you can say a downward curve. So we are going to put Helen's demand schedule onto a graph. Vertical axis represents the price of latte, this one, and the price, this is the vertical axis on which price of lattes are mentioned, and this one, that is the horizontal axis, and on horizontal axis quantity of lattes is present. And you can see that price ranges from $0 to $6, and quantity ranges from 0 to 15 and onwards up till 16, you can say. We can plot the prices corresponding to the quantities. At $6, Helen wants 4 latte, this one, when the price is 6, so the quantity demanded is 4, and when the price is 5, then the quantity demanded is 6. At $4 price, the quantity demanded is 8. At $3, the quantity demanded is 10. At $2 price, quantity demanded is 12. At $1 price, quantity demanded is 14. And at 0 price, quantity demanded is 16. So by joining all these dots, we get the demand curve, and this red line is known as demand curve for Helen. Market demand versus individual demand. Here Helen is just one person, and there are more than just Helen in the market. There is Helen, there is Ken, there are more people in the market. The quantity demanded in the market is the sum of the quantities demanded by all buyers at each price. So you take all these different people and add up their quantity demanded at different prices, and you have the overall market demand. Now obviously Helen and Ken are purchasing different quantities that they want at different prices. Suppose Helen and Ken are the only two buyers uh, in the latte market. Quantity demanded denotes here this term quantity demanded, that is QD. It denotes uh, quantity demanded. We have prices starting from 0 up to $6, this column. We have Helen's quantity demand for different prices, but now we find Ken's quantity demand as well. He takes a latte too, but it is about half as much as Helen does in terms of quantity. So we take Helen and Ken again. They are the only two buyers in this example, and we add their quantity demanded. So at $0 price, the quantity demand in the market, that is having the Helen and Ken, is 24, and at $6 quantity demanded is uh, 6. In between this price level, such as at price $1, market demand is 21. At $2, it is 18. At $3, quantity demanded is 15. At $4, market demand is 12, and at $5, it is 9. Here, it is visible that at each price, the quantity demanded in the market is the sum of the quantity demanded by each buyer in the market. This holds whether there are 2 buyers or 2 billion buyers. The market demand curve for latte. So now we look at the sum of the buyers of the markets, the quantity demanded for the market, and we plot it like we did in our previous slides. At $6, market demand is 6. At $5, quantity demand is 9. At $4, it is 12. At $3, it is 15. At $2, quantity demanded is 18. And at $1, quantity demanded is 21, and at $0, quantity demanded in a market is 24. By joining all these dots, we get the demand curve for a market. So this blue line is showing the demand curve for a market, and in this example having 2 buyers, that is Helen and Ken. Demand curve shifters. The demand curve shows how price affects quantity demanded, other things being equal, or we can say ceteris paribus. These other things are non-price determinants of demand, that is, things that determine buyers' demand for a good other than the good's price. Changes in them shifts the demand curve. So change in quantity demanded involves movement along demand curve, which means that when price of the same product changes, we observe the movement along the same demand curve, that is called change in quantity demanded. Example, price of latte increases causes decrease in quantity demanded of latte, and upward movement along the curve is shown here. If price of latte decreases, quantity demanded will increase, and downward movement along the curve is shown here. Factors lead to shift in demand curve are income, price of related goods, taste and preferences, expectations, and number of buyers. One thing to remember here is that shift in demand curve means change in demand curve, and movement along demand curve means change in quantity demanded. Now coming towards the first demand curve shifter, that is number of buyers. Increase in number of buyers increases quantity demanded at each price, so shifts demand curve to the right. Whenever the number of buyers increases in the market, so the quantity demanded increases, and demand curve shifts outward. Suppose that the number of buyers increases, then at each price quantity demanded will increase. Here the number of buyers increases by 5 in this example due to increase in the number of buyers. Demand curve shift outward, or the entire curve shifts rightward. So here you can see that there is a graphical representation having quantity demanded on horizontal axis and price on vertical axis. And now suppose that the number of buyers increases, then at each price quantity demand will increase. And here the number of buyers increases by 5 in this example. So due to increase in number of buyers, demand curve shifts outward. So this is the new demand curve which shifts because of the increase in number of buyers. Whenever the number of buyers increases in the market, that means that more of the quantity is purchased now. So the demand curve shifts outward. Another demand curve shifter is income. Demand for a normal good is positively related to income. Increase in income causes increase in quantity demanded at each price, shifts demand curve to the right. Basically, normal good is a good you want more as you get the higher pay. For example, if your income increases, then the consumption of the good also increases. So that good is known as normal good. Demand for an inferior good is negatively related to income. An increase in income shifts demand curve for inferior goods to the left. So as you earn more money, this is a good that you want less of. Example is a bus ride. If your income rises, you don't want to ride by bus, and your trips of using bus decreases by the increase in your income. So inferior good is the one that with increase in the income, its consumption decreases. So that's why it shows the negative relation between income and consumption. Another demand curve shifter is the price of related goods. Two goods are substitutes if an increase in the price of one causes an increase in demand for the other. For example, pizza and hamburgers. An increase in the price of pizza increases demand for hamburgers, shifting hamburger demand curve to the right. Another example is Coke and Pepsi, laptops and desktop computers, CDs and music downloads. So all these are substitutes. Whenever the price of one good increases, uh, then the demand for another substitute increases as well, and shifting the demand curve to the rightward. Demand demand curve shifters, prices of related goods. Two goods are complements if an increase in the price of one causes a fall in demand for the other. For example, computers and softwares. If the price of computers rises, people buy fewer computers and therefore less software. Uh, Software demand curve shifts left. Another example is college tuition and textbooks. If the college tuition price goes up, less students will go to college and less people would buy textbooks. So all these examples are of complements. And again, two goods are complements if an increase in the price of one causes a fall in demand for the other. So these are the complements. Taste, another demand curve shifter. Anything that causes a shift in tastes toward a good will increase demand for that good and shifts its demand curve to the right direction. It also could be shift in taste that affects it negatively and shift it to the left. For example, the Atkins diet became popular in 90s caused an increase in demand for eggs, shifted the egg demand curve to the right. So eggs got popular, so the demand for eggs shifted to the right. So this is the mechanism for shifting the demand curve due to taste. Expectations, one more demand curve shifter. Expectations affect consumers' buying decisions. For example, if people expect their income to rise, their demand for meals at expensive restaurants may increase now. And if the economy soars and people worry about their future job security, demand for new automobiles may fall now. So if you expect more money tomorrow, you might spend some money today. And if you expect to have less money tomorrow, uh, you might save some money today. So these are all based on expectations. If people expect that their income is going to rise, so their demand for meal at the expensive restaurants may increase now, expecting that in future their income will rise. So this is the another demand curve shifter that is known as expectations. Here is a summary of variables that influence buyers. Variables that are involved in are price, number of buyers, income, price of related goods, tastes, and expectations. And if you look at this table, you can see that there is only one variable that causes a movement along the demand curve. As we have discussed this mechanism in the previous slides as well, that whenever the price of the same good changes, it causes a movement along the demand curve. Let's say if the price of a good increases, so the quantity of that good decreases, and if the price of that good decreases, so the quantity demanded of that good increases, showing a movement along the same demand curve. Next is number of buyers, which shifts the demand curve. Income again shifts the demand curve. Price of the related goods, tastes and expectations also shifts the demand curve to either the direction. Now comes active learning about demand curve. Here is a question. Draw a demand curve for music downloads. What happens to it in each of the following scenarios and why? A. The price of iPods falls. B. The price of music downloads falls. And C. The price of CDs falls. Coming to answer part A, that is price of iPod falls. So if the price changes, that's something on the axis, you move along the curve. For example, price of iPods fall, and here on vertical axis there is a price of music downloads, and on horizontal axis there is quantity of music downloads. Music downloads and iPods are complements. A fall in price of iPods shifts the demand curve for music downloads to the right. So this green demand curve denoted by D2 is the new demand curve. Here P1 and Q1 are representing the initial quantity and price. Although the price of music downloads is the same, but the quantity demanded is now higher. So again, in this example, the price of iPods fell and the price of music downloads did not change, and the demand curve shifts outward. So this one is the new demand curve, which shifts because of the fall in the price of iPods. Answer of part B, that is price of music downloads fall. We are having price of music downloads on vertical axis and quantity of music downloads on horizontal axis again. The demand curve does not shift in this example. It's the movement along the curve to the point with lower price. Original point is P1 and Q1. Price decreases from P1 to P2, which leads to increase in the quantity demanded of music downloads from Q1 to Q2, showing a movement along the curve from this point to this point. So this is the movement along the curve. Answer of part C, that is price of CDs fall. CDs and music downloads are substitutes. A fall in price of CDs shifts demand for music downloads to the left hand side. So this red line or D2 is the new demand curve. Price of music downloads did not change here, but the quantity of music downloads did change due to negative left shift of the demand curve for losing commitment for music downloads. So here the shift occurs to the left hand side of the original demand curve. So this is because of price of the CDs fall. Here is what from lecture number 1, part 1 of chapter 4, market forces of supply and demand.